Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today, this video is just going to be about showing you guys how to use the typical Blazvatan Warbeast deck. I'm just going to start by explaining the specific build that I use and why I use the specific cards that I do. Then I'll go into more detail about why some matchups are very good for you and they're favorable, and then why some matchups aren't so good and some decks that are going to be really tough to beat using this deck. Then at the end, I have a couple example matches to show you. Hope you enjoy. So here is my Warbeast deck that I use while I'm playing on Chaotic Recode. So I've got Blazvatan as my main fighter, and I think you can see why. He's got Air 5 and Earth 5. He's got crazy stats. He's got actually the highest courage in the game. It might be tied. And high speed in the game. I don't know if that's tied with another creature, but either way, those are the highest values. And then, obviously, yeah, 70 energy, great fighter. Then, as my secondary, I've got Killeron. He shares elements with Blazvatan. They both have air and earth. And he's also got those damage modifiers, air 5 and earth 5. He's only got 50 energy, but there's a couple Warbeasts that have more energy that also have those elements, but they have big downsides. So I don't use them. If you know them, those are Gintane and Ixik. They both have big downsides, so they have to have the whole deck built around them. But in this case, this deck is built around Blazvatan, so you can't use them as your main fighter, or as your secondary fighter. Then I have Alav as the main support creature, and this is because of his ability. So he reduces damage dealt to Warbeasts you control by 5. This is all forms of damage, not just attacks. So this includes damaging Mujic or abilities like Cannon of Casualty or Umqua's ability. All forms of damage are reduced by 5. Even the recklessness from the Warbeasts themselves are also reduced by 5. Then you've got two conjurers here. You've got Bilkian, which reduces all recklessness damage dealt to Warbeasts you control by 10. And Renan does the same thing. He's my other conjurer. So in total, that reduces 25 recklessness, and that's just perfect for Blazvatan and Killeron. Then I've got Malverdine as my defender. So the more common version of this deck, with Blazvatan as your main fighter, Killeron, etc., you actually have Renan as your two conjurers in the back. You don't have Bilkian. And this is because Renan has the better ability with the heal. But the reason I have Bilkian instead of Renan is because I have Malverdine as my defender, which is different than the more common build, which actually has a Warbeast defender. This is the only Warbeast that has defender, and it's Gafat Ra. But the reason I use Malverdine instead is because Malverdine has 65 energy versus 50. He's got air 5, and he's got strike 10. Plus he's got a Mujic counter. And I think that's enough to choose him over Gafat Ra, even though Gafat Ra benefits from Alav, where Malverdine doesn't. So because I'm using Malverdine, I have to swap Bilkian, or I have to swap Renan for Bilkian, because Malverdine, if you see, it says he only has defender and air 5 while you control a royal. And Bilkian is the only royal conjurer. So that's why I've got to swap him in instead of Renan. So in terms of battle gear, on my fighters, I've got Zerium armor on my Blazvatan, as he's my main fighter. And this battle gear is arguably the best battle gear to put on your fighter. And that's because of all the value you can get. So the other options you can give on Blazvatan would be just typical battle gear to boost his energy. So there's Drill Dozer, which is this battle gear here, I have on Killeron. If I put that on Blazvatan, his energy would go to 90. And then there's also Evergreen Tunic, which gives 20 bonus energy to a creature with 75 plus courage. So that would bring Blazvatan to 90. But instead, I'm using Zerium armor, which doesn't increase his energy, but any attack that's dealt to Blazvatan is reduced to 20 damage. Now, Blazvatan has 70 energy, which means they need at minimum 4 attacks to kill my Blazvatan. And with his Air 5 and Earth 5, I can deal a lot of damage in 4 attacks. And I'm willing to bet I can deal more damage than they can in 4 attacks. And there are a couple attacks out there, and most decks will run 2, 3, 4 attacks. They're a lot harder hitting than the rest of their attacks. They're usually not consistent in damage. So they'll have like an average damage of 10 or 15, and then they hit 140 damage, 50, even 60 damage attacks sometimes. And that's why Zerium Armor gets gets more value than just simply boosting his energy with a different battle gear. And that's why it's unique, because it's a good battle gear, and having 2 of them on the same, or 2 of them in the same deck would be busted. And for Killaron, it's pretty self-explanatory. I just want to give him an extra 20 energy. So that's what I'm doing with Drill Dozer. And then for my Malvadine, I'm giving him Citadel Lodestone, which gives him the Earth element when he's engaged. And the reason I'm doing that is because my attack deck is Earth and Air attacks. So if Malvadine is missing Earth, he's going to miss out on a ton of damage on my attacks. So I gave him Citadel Lodestone. And then on my Alav up here, if you look at him, he's got Air and Earth, just like Blazvatan and Killaron, and he's got 50 energy. That means he's got a chance to win a battle. Like, maybe not against the opponent's best fighter, but he can hold his own. And that's why I gave him Drill Dozer, just to give him that extra 20 energy in case he does get into a battle. You don't want him to. He'd rather be fighting with your Killaron, Blazvatan, Malvadine, but once in a while you just can't avoid it. So I gave him Drill Dozer for when that happens. Then in the back here, I've given Revita Flower to both Renan and Bilkian. And what this does is when it's flipped up, I have the ability to sacrifice it to put 2 Mujic counters on any conjurer creature of my choice. So usually you're giving those 2 counters to Renan because he can be casting Mujic, or he can be using those Mujic counters to heal. Now you might be a little confused because I got the flowers on my support creatures, which means I'm only going to be able to use them when my support creatures get into battle, and that's usually too late. But to get around that, I added this attack in my attack deck. I got 2 of them here. Sirocco. So if you read it, it allows me to flip a face-down battle gear I control face up. So while I'm battling with one of my fighters, I play this attack. Boom, my Revita Flower gets flipped up, and I get those 2 extra counters. So moving on to my Mujic choices, I've got 2 Melody of Mirages. Now this Mujic is the best Mepedian Mujic. Every single loyal Mepedian deck should be running 2 of these. It's just that strong, and with all the really strong, hard-hitting attacks there are, like in every single match you're going to play, or like 99% of matches, you're going to need these. Now this Mujic isn't used as much in Warbeast decks, but the reason I use it is because the difference between this Mujic and Melody of Mirage is that, well, obviously there's a downside. The next attack played deals 0. So if I use it, if I use it on the opponent's attack, my next attack will deal 0 damage. But this Mujic negates the attack instead of just setting it to 0. Let me give you an example of why I use this. So there's this attack called Dead Water Devastation. And this is used in a lot of decks because there's a lot of water decks. Now if I use Melody of Mirage on this card, or on this attack, it's only going to deal 0 damage. So that 30 damage is whatever. But the ability still goes through, and that's even more impactful than just the damage itself sometimes. And that's, you can remove all Mujic counters from a creature of your choice. Now often in this deck, when you're flipping these flowers, you're stacking those counters on Renan. So a single Dead Water can just eliminate all those counters. And that's huge value for your opponent. So that's why I run 1 Aegis is to negate attacks like Dead Water. Because it doesn't just set its damage to 0, it negates it, which means its ability doesn't go through either. So it just does nothing. Now my other Mujiks, I've got Song of Shelter. This is really important in matchups when your opponent has burn Mujik or burn abilities. And by that I just mean Mujik or abilities that deal damage to your creatures. Like a big deck is Underworld Burn. And they can be targeting your Conjurers with Cannon of Casualty or other damaging Mujik. And then a Song of Shelter you can cast on your Conjurer, and then they're no longer targetable by any Mujik or abilities. Now you can use this obviously on your fighters as well, like Blazvatan, Killerwan, when they're in battle and your opponent's using burn Mujiks on them, or abilities. But the one thing to look out for is after you use Song of Shelter and it resolves on one of your fighters, or on anybody, you can no longer heal them with Renan, because you also can't target them with Mujik or abilities. So you get no more Renan healing. So that's something to keep in the back of your head when you're using Song of Shelter. Then I've got Strain. So one of the reasons I added this is because I don't want to be using too many counters, because I could be using those counters to heal, because I've got Renan. So I thought might as well just include a Mujik that doesn't cost any counters. Plus this is good Mujik. I'm running 6 Mirage locations on my deck. I got these 2, I got here, and I got here. And this Mujik, I can destroy all battle gear equipped to creatures at target Mirage location. So you can place the Mirage on an opponent's creature square, wherever you want, and cast this Mujik and you destroy his battle gear. Then finally I have Carnivore's Keening. Now this Mujik is seen in a lot of decks because of how flexible it is. It can be used on a Conjurer that's getting attacked by burn Mujik or abilities, so I can use it to save my Renan. It can be used on my fighter like Blazvatan. If he's about to die, I can use it and bring him back. And also there's synergy here because Bilkian's ability, reduce recklessness damage dealt to Warbeast you control by additional 10. So after I use this on my Blazvatan, I can use Bilkian's ability, and then that extra 10 recklessness is negated. And one other way to use this Mujik is, let's say Blazvatan's fighting an enemy and that guy's got like a ton of health, like 90, 100 energy or something. I can use Carnivore's Keening on his fighter at the beginning of battle, before any attacks are played. Then his fighter's got recklessness 10, and that's called using Carnivore's Keening offensively. So that's kind of a cool way to use it too, because after 3 attacks by the opponent, that extra 30 I gave him, that's all negated. And then now every time he attacks, he deals 10 damage to himself. So looking at my location choices for this deck, the first location I chose is Storm Tunnel. Now this location is seen in Warbeast decks all the time. It's just there because you get that additional 5 damage for your air attacks. Pretty easy to understand. Now here you've got Royal Mepedian Academy of Melee Arts. Now this location is in because it's a Mirage, so that helps me use Strain of Expensive Delusions. Also, the big part about this location is it reduces non-attack damage to 0. So sometimes it can come clutch near the end of a match. If you've lost a Conjurer, that recklessness damage, that's all negated, because it reduces all non-attack damage to 0. That includes recklessness. So if you lost your Renan earlier, if you got like a guy in your backline, and now you would be taking 10 recklessness damage, at this location you don't take that damage. Also, when you go against burn decks, and this location pops up, none of their burn abilities or Mujiks are going to do any damage. So that's also a bonus. Then the Hunter's Perimeter. This one, it gives your Mepedians invisibility when it flips up, and then at the beginning of combat, it reveals a new active location. So having this location is kind of like having 8 locations in your deck, plus it's another Mirage location, so I can use Strain with it, and it gives you initiative because your Mepedians get invisibility surprise. Then Mepeda Mirage, this is a great location not just in Warbeast decks, but in all decks in general, just because of its Mirage ability. So if you read it, it says, if a creature can move into the space, it must do so. So you can kind of use it to force your opponent to attack a specific creature or move a creature in a specific way into a spot that you want. You'll see examples later when I play using this deck, but once you learn like how to use this location, it can be very powerful. And again, it's another Mirage for my strain music. Now this last location, Dranikus Threshold, this location isn't actually used in Warbeast decks that much, and a lot of people don't like it because they say, oh, no music or abilities, I can no longer use my Run on Healing or use any of these musics because Melodies of Mirage can be very powerful, etc. But I like this location because I don't think anybody's beating Blazvatan at this location. He's got 70 energy, he's got 150 courage, the highest courage in the game, so he's not losing initiative, he's attacking first, and he's got Zerium armor. If this Zerium armor does not get flipped, because they can't use music or abilities to flip it, they're going to need 4 attacks to kill me, and I get to go first. There are very few ways that you're going to lose a battle with Blazvatan at Dranikus Threshold. The only way this can backfire is if you're playing against Strike. So if you guys don't know what Strike is, it's a Mepedian deck where the main fighter is Malvadine the King's Herald, this guy right here, and a lot of times people will give him the battle gear OPX Apron. Now that battle gear says that when your creature gets engaged, flip the opponent's battle gear face down. So that's a triggered ability, which means Dranikus Threshold doesn't stop it. Dranikus Threshold only stops activated abilities and music. So if you go into battle against a Malvadine and he's got Okiek and he flips your Zerium down, he can 2-shot you. He can't 1-shot you. So you're always going to be guaranteed 2 attacks. You have too much energy to get 1-shot, even if he plays look, you have 70 energy. He needs to do 75 damage with 1 attack because you have Alav reducing all damage by 5. So even a 70 damage attack would not kill you. So you're guaranteed 2 attacks. So only attack Malvadine at Dranikus Threshold if you have a Whirling Whale in hand and then one of these attacks. Funnel Blast, and you've got Sandstrike. Because Whirling Whale is going to do 40 with your Air 5, Earth 5, bringing Malvadine to 25. As you see, he's got 65 max energy. And then Funnel Blast and Sandstrike both do 25 damage with Blazvatan. So you 2-shot him before he can 2-shot you. Now I'm just going to go through my attacks here. The Whirling Whale is a really strong attack, and some people like using Cyclone Slam in Warbeast decks, but this is just better because its ability is awesome. It basically guarantees you a battle win. Your opponent may not play music counters is a huge advantage over your opponent. Plus, you're dealing 40 damage with this using Blazvatan and Killeron. And Sirocco, I explained earlier why I put these attacks in. It's to get these flowers up, and that's really important as well. Then the rest of these 1-drops, they're all just the highest damage attacks that I could use. The Sandstrike does 25, Funnel Blast does 25 with Blazvatan and Killeron. The rest of these attacks are going to do 20. We've got Earth Pulse, Blind Fury, Radical Ice Balls, and Langor. I decided to put a Langor in with Radical Ice Balls just because people were using a certain location called Raupak Shock Ocean with no water, and that says when a water attack is played, that the person who played the water attack gets to reveal a new active location. So just having Langor in there is still going to do 20, just like Ice Balls, but it's just something that I can do to kind of trigger that location effect. And also with Carnival of Confusion, which kind of swaps around your elements, Langor will still do more damage than these other attacks. But anyways, usually people just use another Radical Ice Balls, which is totally fine. And then again, Air Assault's going to do 20. Then for my 0-drops, you got Shadowman Storm Shield. This is actually really cool. Doing 10 damage with a 0 drop feels great because you got Air 5, Earth 5, plus your healing 5. And then Flying Advantage is only going to do 5 damage because it doesn't have Earth. But again, you're healing 5. And then for this last card, this is kind of another tech attack. You can swap this out for another Flying Advantage, that's fine. But there is a little bit more Elemental Hate, is what the term's called, in the meta right now, which is cards that aim to remove elements from your fighters. So this is just an attack I can play. If somehow my Blazvatan, Killeron, Malvadine lose their air element, I can play this attack and gain it back. So yeah, that's it for my build for my Blazvatan Warbeast deck. And then now I'm just going to move on and talk a little bit about the certain matchups that you can run into while playing this deck. So the first matchup I'm going to talk about is the matchup against this deck called Azil Compost. So the purpose of Azil Compost is using creatures like Elna and Machanaz and having them die. You want them to die. Because here it says Elna, when Elna is in your discard pile, you activate Hive at the beginning of your turn. And when Machanaz is in your discard pile, Mandragores you control gain 15 energy. So your creatures here, Hiadrim is a Manticore, and you've got 2 of them. And when Hive is active, he gains 15 energy, and creatures engaged with him lose 15 energy. So that's a 30 energy swing. So with Elna in the discard pile, and Machanaz in the discard pile, Hiadrim gets Hive activated at the start of every combat, and he gets the extra 15 energy from Machanaz. So here, if you look at Killeron's ability, it says creatures in battle gear that would be placed in a general discard pile are removed from the game instead. So this means when Elna dies or when Machanaz dies, they don't go to the discard pile, they don't stay there. They're removed from the game. That's why this deck is actually really strong against Azil Compost because of Killeron. Now, if you lose Killeron right away, that's a different story. So if you're against Azil Compost, if they're smart, they'll attack your Killeron first. But Azil Compost doesn't get strong until Elna and Machanaz are dead and in their discard pile. That's when they get at their strongest. So what you want to do is throw everything you have into that fight if they go fight your Killeron. And if you go first, you're chilling. You want to take out either Elna or Machanaz, because that way they can never get them back. Even if they kill Killeron, they're gone. So that's why Warbeasts have a great matchup against Azil Compost. This deck, called Hermatrod's Attack, has a difficult matchup against Warbeast for the same reason that Azil Compost does. So this deck, the point is, if you look at Hermatrod here, he gains 5 energy for each Manticore creature you control and each infected creature in play. So the point is to use Tabal's Brainwash ability, infect as many creatures as you can, but as you can see, you have to sacrifice the Manticore you control. So you're sacrificing Tabal and you're sacrificing Evelyn, which gives your Manticore's 25 to all disciplines while in the discard pile, and Elhad gives your Manticore's outperform Courage 5 while in the discard pile. So these 2 creatures are there to buff up Hermatrod's Courage and I give him another outperform Courage 5. So again, you want to keep your Killeron alive, and then that makes this deck significantly weaker. Plus, Hermatrod, even with Evelyn, is only going to have 110 Courage. And your Blazvatan has 150 Courage, so he's not winning any challenges against you anytime soon. This deck right here, Rar, which uses these 2 Ixix as your fighters, your only fighters, with 4 support creatures, it is one of the top decks right now in the meta. And it has very few bad matchups. Now, it doesn't have a bad matchup per se against Warbeasts, but I think Warbeast is an underrated deck against it, because Warbeasts isn't seen as one of the best decks in the meta, because it has a decent amount of counters. But I think against Rar, it can do pretty well. And if it goes first, you've got a decent chance. So the reason I say this is the whole point of RAR is obviously you've got your two beefy Ixix, but you kind of look at 4 supports and like, well, the opponent's just going to attack the Zelf right away, and you're going to lose 3 counters. But Rahab, if you read his ability, when a creature you control is put into your discard pile from play, Rahab gains a music counter for each counter on that creature. So that's how this deck gets around losing their Zelf when they go second. Those 3 counters just go on Rahab, and then Rahab can use those counters to give creatures Recklessness 5, as you can see from his ability. But because of Killeron, it's the same idea. If you attack first, let's say with Blazvatan, and he attacks Zelf, you're not going to get those 3 counters on Rahab, because this card never goes to the discard pile. So Rahab doesn't get the counters from the creature because it never goes to the discard pile. So then they're losing 3 counters right away. Also, the ability of Rahab to give a creature Recklessness 5, that's also counteracted by Bilkian. You can use Bilkian's ability to reduce Reckless damage dealt to Warbeast you control by an additional 10 until the end of turn. So if he uses Rahab's ability, or if he gets other music counters on him, you can still negate the Recklessness with Bilkian. And then just your Blazvatan straight up against your Ixix, that's tough, obviously, but your attacks are going to be doing more than theirs because he doesn't have Air 5, Earth 5, which is why they kind of rely on their Mujix and their Rahab ability, like a little bit, kind of like that, which is why I think this Warbeast deck can do pretty well. The only problem is if he goes first, he's going to be launching his Ixix into your backline, and then if your Malvadine loses that fight, your Conjurers are in trouble, which is what makes the RAR deck so strong. But if you go first, you have, I'd say, a pretty decent chance of beating this deck, which is saying something since this deck is very strong. Now we're moving on to the bad matchups. Now, Underworld Burn is a very strong deck, and it's played a lot. You're going to see it a lot if you play on Chaotic Recode, which is why I'm not always playing Warbeast, just because this deck is so prevalent, and it has a very good matchup against Warbeasts. Now, if you know how this deck works, you know that they're using all different types of burn music just to kill your creatures as fast as possible. So they've got Copond in the back, and his ability here, music played by Copond that deals damage, deals an additional 10 damage, which means Cannon of Casualty off Copond does 30. So they've got 2 counters off Copond, and they have Almar, Perythion Racer. He can deal 10 damage. He has to expend fire, so he can only do it once per turn, but it doesn't cost a music counter, and this refreshes every turn. So they have 2 of these, that's 20 burn that refreshes every turn. And on top of that, they're going to have 4 different burn music. So usually Underworld Burn, they'll go into battle with like their Care the Fierce. They'll take on like your main fighter, and then when your main fighter gets low, they'll use the burn music to finish them off. But with Alav reducing that by 5, and Blazvatan being such a beast, it's hard for Underworld Burn to even win one-on-one against Blazvatan, especially when you have Carnivore's Keening and Song of Shelter. But the problem with the Warbeast deck is they're so reliant on their back row Conjurers. So what a decent Underworld Burn player is going to do is they're just going to kill your Conjurers. If you look at Renan here, 35 energy, that's a Cannon of Casualty from Copond, and then 1 Almar, deal 10 damage to target creature. And they're going to, if they're smart, they're going to play around your Song of Shelter. They're going to play a Cannon on your Renan, you're going to Song of Shelter him, and then they're going to stack all their burn on top of your Song of Shelter before it resolves on the same burst to make sure you kill him, or make sure that Renan dies. And then you're stuck with 10 Recklessness on your Warbeasts, and then it's pretty much game over from there, which is why this matchup is so tough. If they misplay, because a lot of people, they'll stack, burn, and not like what you're supposed to do against a Pedian deck is Underworld Burn. Is you use one burn ability or one burn music, you let it resolve, then you play another one, you let that resolve as well. If they stack it all in the same burst, you can use one Song of Shelter to block all of it in one go. So if that happens, you have a chance. But if they're smart, they're not going to do that. They're not going to let you block all their burn with one Song of Shelter, and you're going to lose. That's another reason I have Royal Pedian Academy Melee Arts. This makes it so no burn abilities, no music is going to deal any damage. So this protects you, but only for one turn. And then also Dranicus Threshold, same thing. You're protected while this is on the board. But even if you get these locations, it's still going to be very hard for you to win this matchup. And this is just how Chaotic works. Every deck is going to have at least one bad matchup. And this is the worst matchup for Warbeasts. So there's a deck archetype that uses Gantrak and a Chieftain that can destroy a target engaged creature with 0 of a certain discipline. And how Gantrak works is attacks played by your creatures, any creature, on your team, instead of dealing damage to your opponent's energy, they reduce your opponent's creature's disciplines instead. And then when the opponent creature's disciplines all hit 0, they die. But obviously it's hard to get your opponent's disciplines to 0. Usually that's harder than just killing them based on reducing their energy. So Gantrak is usually paired with one of these chieftains that has one of these abilities. So the version of this deck that's the hardest to deal with this Warbeast version, is the Falmakin Gantrak deck. And that's because Falmakin is the chieftain that can destroy an engaged creature with 0 wisdom. And if you look at your fighters, they all have very low wisdom. Killaron has only 30, Blazvatan 50, and Malvadine 45. They're going to attack one of your fighters with their Corral, and he's got Intimidate Wisdom 30. So right away, Killaron's down to 0 wisdom. Blazvatan's at 20, Malvadine's at 15. They're only going to need 1 or 2 attacks to bring your wisdom to 0, and then kill you with Falmakin. Now, the trick in this matchup is how you use Song of Shelter. Because all you have to worry about is Falmakin. Your Blazvatan has 150 courage and speed. There's no way they're going to kill you using just a Gantrak and reducing all your disciplines to 0. That's basically 150 energy on Blazvatan when they're attacking your disciplines. And you're going to kill their Corral before you die. So all you have to worry about is Falmakin. So the key to this is how you use Song of Shelter. As you can see, Falmakin's ability, it targets an engaged creature, which means you can block it with Song of Shelter. Now the mistake I see people make in this matchup is, here, let's give an example. Your Blazvatan is fighting against their Corral, and then they bring him down to 0 wisdom. Then they use their Falmakin ability to try and destroy Blazvatan. They discard 2 music cards. You use your Song of Shelter, and then you're like, okay, I blocked his ability. But he can just use the ability again on top of your Song of Shelter, and then your Blazvatan's still going to die. Now, that is a decent trade-off, because he's now discarded 4 music cards, so we can only use Falmakin on 1 more of your fighters. So you're usually okay, because even one of these fighters is pretty strong compared to their fighters, which is why you usually still do well in this matchup, it's just a little tricky. But the key is, because you want to save your Blazvatan, he's your strongest creature, what you want to do is right before their attack goes through, or their music ability, whatever, goes through that reduces your wisdom to 0, you play Song of Shelter. So you don't wait for your wisdom to go to 0, and then for him to use Falmakin's ability. That's too late, because he can use it again on top of your Song of Shelter. You want to play Song of Shelter before your wisdom goes to 0. So then when your wisdom is 0, Song of Shelter is already resolved, and he can't even target your Blazvatan anymore. So if you're in this matchup, if you're having trouble with this matchup, remember that tip. Also, if you're really struggling against Gantrack decks or like Wisdom Challenge decks in general, you can always go back to the other version of this deck that runs double or none and has Gafat Raw. Because if you look at Gafat Raw's stats, he has 100 Wisdom. So even if you're having trouble with the power version of the Discard Chieftain, just run Gafat Raw instead of Malvadine. He's going to be your carry in this matchup, not Blazvatan, not Killeron. You've got Gafat Raw with 100 power, 100 Wisdom. That's going to be the biggest problem for your opponent. And that's just a creature you put in if you're really struggling with this matchup. Alright, so that's it for all the matchup tips I've got, or the matchup explanations for the Warbeast deck. Now I'm going to show you a couple example games and show you how to play the deck. Alright, looks like our first match is against another Warbeast deck. Good luck. Oh, he's running Core. This Warbeast is so cool. 130 energy, highest energy in the game, but as you can see, he's got 50 recklessness. And it doesn't look like he's reducing all of it, because it not only reduces 10, and the Pele reduces 10 for each counter that he has. So he's only reducing 20 between the two of them. Interesting. Interesting. Alright, we'll see what's going on. He could have... There's a battle gear called Stonemail, and he could have that in core. Let's find out. No Bolo's Dagger. Okay, he's going for dagger attacks, but he's still going to take 30 recklessness, because he only reduces 20 of it. Alright, interesting. We'll see what happens. I would have thought he would like flip my Zerium. Okay. Let's see. Is it Flower? Revita Flower, and he's going to put on a Pele? Ah, it is. Smart. Okay, that makes sense. So he's only going to take 10 damage now, because he reduces 30 here and 10 here. Alright, I'm ready. Let's see what you got. I actually really like this guy's deck. I rarely see Titanics at all, so this is pretty cool. Battle of the Warbeasts. It's just going to do 25. Well, 20. I have Zerium. Yeah, he's still taking 10 recklessness. Alright, I can do this. So do 30 damage, because Storm Tunnel, I'll get that extra 5. On top of my already Air 5, Earth 5. Then Virage makes sense. Alright, he may have a big boy, but I'm feeling pretty confident. I still got my Zerium. Harnessed Rage. Oh, without Zerium armor, this would do 50 damage. Jesus. And that's just what I'm saying. Zerium is the best gear for Blazvatan. Alright, let's keep it going. So do 25. Alright, no more Melody Mirages yet from him. So only does 15. Oh, what am I saying? I have more courage. Just 0. Let's go Blazvatan with 150 courage. He's healing, that's fine. Go ahead. The thing is, if he wants to use more Music, he's got one more counter on Zelf, but otherwise he's going to have to use his healing counters or his Apele counters, and he needs those counters on Apele. Because that's the only way he can reduce the recklessness. So I'm feeling pretty good right now because I have access to all my Music still. And he's still taking 10 recklessness damage. Deal 5 damage for each of a penny you control. So if I let this go through, it's going to do 20. Then I'm at 10. Then the next attack, he only needs to do 10 damage. So instead of holding my Melody of Mirage, I'm going to use it now on this attack because it's the stronger one. Jeez, his core still has 65 energy. Oh, this is even more because he has Bodil's Dagger. Well, I mean Zerium. So still 20, but yeah, that would do a lot. Sacrifice a battle gear. If you do, return another battle gear from your discard pile to play. Oh, he's going to get his Revita Flower back. He can get more counters on Pele. Should have done that earlier. He's been taking Recklessness damage for a couple attacks now. Wait, never mind. Killer on. All battle gears doesn't go to discard pile. He just wasted his music. Yeah, and I didn't even realize either. That's a big draw, Whirling Whale, 40 damage. This is perfect. His core is going down. He conceded! And that's a dub. As you can see, Blazvatan's a powerhouse. I know Core was taking 10 Recklessness damage, but with the Zerium, you're only taking 20 damage for each of his attacks, and those stacks of Air 5, Earth 5, especially with the Storm Tunnel, another Air 5, you're getting a lot of damage in. Oh, it's a successful first game. GG's to Black D. Now this is going to be interesting, because Mepedian Strike is a strong deck, as I'm sure you guys know, but I do like Warbeast's chances against it, especially this version with Iflar instead of Ifjan. Because Ifjan can deny all the healing from Renan, but here he's just got 6 fighters. So I think I can win this. I believe. Perfect. More counters, more healing. And when I get to attack first. It doesn't matter. He's going to defend with Malvadine either way. I think I just like my Blazvatan in the middle. Now, you know what? We're going to take on the Malvadine that's closer to my Alav on the bottom side. The Indigo Arc, that is a little scary. Because if he flips my gear down, I got nothing. I can't stop his first attack each combat. Which is how Strike does all its damage with this first attack. Okay. Let's just hope he doesn't flip my Zerium armor. Oh, Whirling Whirl is big. He can't use Mujix. That's huge. This is like a free combat win if he doesn't do anything about it. And it's all on top of that, it's 45 damage with Blazvatan. Because I got the Storm Tunnel and I got the Air 5, Earth 5. Yeah, Melody of Mirage, of course. Makes sense. But you can't use any more music. Yeah, he was going to flip my Zerium. Okay, that's what I thought. There's nothing I can really do about it. Alright, let's see how much damage your first attack does. I'm still not too worried because I know he can't one-shot me, even with Before the Storm. Let's see, this does 30. He gets 5 plus here is 35. Air 5 is 40. Then the Strike 50. Strike 60. 65, 70. See, I told you could one-shot me, only 65 damage. Jesus Christ. Oh my lord. It's a little scary. Whew. Let's start by getting some more healing counters here. So we'll do 15. Let's get some more Renan healing going. Alright. Now I'm not worried because I still got all my Mujiks. Got lots of healing. And the only attacks that really do much damage is before the storm. So this is going to do 25. Let's do Carnivore's Keening here. Perfect. And then you're going to use Bilkin's ability, so that extra 10 recklessness from the Carnivore's Keening doesn't do anything. Because as you see his ability, I reduced that recklessness damage dealt. 10 reckless damage. And we're going to wear his Malvadine down here. 25 damage. Let's go. Alright, 2 more attacks and I got him. Atmosphere. This is going to do... Oh yeah, it's just only 20 because Alaf. So I only have to heal once. Don't have to waste a counter. Look at that. 5 health. And 30 damage attack. I got him. Let's go. And I only had to use 1 music. Look at that. He used 2. And he used it before the storm. Okay, so I want to bring Kiran here, because if he fights Kiran and I lose, I want to be able to go back with Blazvatan. And I still have Malvadine defending the backline. Interesting. Castle Bodrin? In a strike deck? That's interesting, because usually strikes miss encounters. I guess because he has double Balladier's Flute. Alright. Well, I only used 1 music, so I will take it back. Yeah, he's attacking with Iflar. Alright, let's go Iflar. With Fulgurite, interesting. Oh, I got more power. I'm attacking first. Oh, never mind. What am I saying? He's got surprise. This is going to do 30 because he got strike 10 or 20 here, and he's got 25, 30. And he's getting his before the storm. I get my Whirling Wheel back. It's not horrible. 40. Oh, I'm dumb. He's got Fulgurite. I should have used Melody of Mirage. Whoops. At least he's only got 45 health. I can still win this. Man. Can't believe I miscounted. Fighter's Fanfare. Interesting. Lucky for me, I got my Song of Shelter to deny that. This is a really big music, though. Like, that's scary. I got my Song of Shelter. Valley Mirage. Okay. He's kind of committing a lot to this. If I use Melody Mirage on the first fight, I might commit harder here, but I didn't. The only problem is he can move his Awaiki up, and then I have to choose between attacking Iflar or Awaiki, because I got to protect my back line. So it would be nice if I drew a Whirling Whale or something here. This is 20 damage. Oh, 15, never mind, he doesn't have Recklessness. 15. Oof. That's 25 damage right there. You know what? We're not going to commit here. I messed up at the beginning. I think Alav can take Iflar. If he doesn't move his Awaiki up, it's honestly kind of dumb. He should and put pressure on my backline. If he doesn't, I'm not worried. Yeah, he did. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to attack his Awaiki. He's going to defend with Malvadine. And then I'll have to fight for my life with Alav. If I get Mepeta Mirage, that's huge. Because then I don't have to worry about defense. Alright, let's see what you got here. He's got Fulgurite on Malvadine too. Interesting. Whose gear do I want to destroy? I guess, no, if I try and destroy it, he's just going to sacrifice it. And this is going to be destroyed in a second, so I guess Headmaster. Alright, here we go. What was it? Oh, I can't get Killer on, makes it exiled. Alright, here we go. This does 10, 20, 25, 30. That's not bad. I'm going to let it go through. Well, 25 because 8 left. Alright, give me a decent attack. Come on. Come on. I'll take it. That's 20. Does he use both Melody of Mirages and Freddy's Fanfare? Okay. I still have both Melody of Mirages. I got this. This is 10. It's Fulgurite. He's got that air 10. And the air 5. Alright. Looks like it's going to take 2 more attacks. And he's only got 1 music left. Or 1 music counter left. That is 25 damage. Melody of Mirage it. Yeah, I want to keep my healing. And then if he gets it before the storm, I still have 1 more Melody of Mirage, so I'm not too worried. Alright, this is 10 damage. Let's get some more healing. What do you got now? That's it. Okay. That's 15. Come on, give me something good. 20 damage. I just need 20 damage. No, what are you doing? Stop trying to kill me. Oh, he's trying to fit my drill dozer down, which bring me to 0, because it's giving me extra 20. That's fine. I can heal 10. And now you're out of music. Or music counters. Well, he was, until he used flute. Alright, come on. 20 damage. Yes! Let me end this. 20 damage right here. What's your last music? What is your last? Carnivore's Keening. There's not much I can do about that. And it's really good on this location because you're not going to take that reckless damage. Okay, I got one of those too, if I need it. Just don't play before the storm. This is... He wins the speed challenge. He's got air 5, air 15. This is 25. Just use Carnivores to start. There we go. Ooh, 25 damage. I almost got him. Alright, if he plays before the storm, I have Mirage. Okay. This is 15. This is 25. So we're going to heal twice. Perfect. I got this battle. Oh. There we go. Boom. Now we just use really... This will do 0, so don't use this. There we go. Nice. Now we got to worry about Alav beating Iflar. It doesn't really matter where I put this, because I don't have any targeting creature music. Okay. His first attack is going to be huge because he's got Strike 10. Let's see, this is 10. He's got the Strike 20, so it's 30, then 35, 40, 50 damage. We got to block this. The only problem is if he has Before the Storm, I lose my Alav. Because I'm not going to kill him in like a 1 attack. Or 2. Oh, I do have Strike 25. Or Strike 10. So this is 25. But still, it's going to take me 3 attacks to kill him. So if he has Before the Storm, don't have Before the Storm. Come on. Come on. He probably does. Really? He's 12 attacks deep? Okay. Alright. Before the storm, I think, kills me. Let's see. 30 damage base. Then he gets strike from here. 40, 50, 60, 65, 70. Ah, I can't save him. Oh, I have Aegis. What am I saying? Whew. If he has another before the storm, though, I'm dead. Because this next attack does 0 damage. We'll choose Vapor Wipeout. Please don't have another before the storm, please. Yes, let's go. Huge. We got him. We don't have to even have to use Whirling Whale. He's got nothing. He's got nothing. Look at that. Aegis coming in clutch. Alright, I'm feeling pretty good about our chances. He's going to run away. Oh no. Oh no, he's going to force a showdown. Wait, no, he can't. He can't force a showdown. He's going to force me to attack on my location. So if for a showdown, you need 3 turns where nobody battles. This is only a second turn where nobody battles. So if he doesn't attack me here, I can just attack him next turn. He can't run away far enough. Alright, let's do it. Air Assault, he's got Air 5. That's 15. That's fine. I don't even know if I need my Whirling Whale, so we're not going to use it. If I'm in before the storm killing distance, I'll use it to make sure I kill him. Oh, Marksman's Prep. That can deal 30 damage to me. Yeah, okay. We don't save Whirling Whale. We definitely just use it. Make sure we win that battle. Where is he going to put his Mirage? Who am I fighting? And I got Mirage. That's fine. Killer on there. Let's take out your Headmaster. Boom. Starting off strong. And I still have Zerium, so even if he gets before the storm, I'm not worried. Honestly, I can use weak attacks now. Just because my Zerium armor. I'm not worried at all. Look at that. You gotta fight my Blazvatan now. This is what I was saying. Warbeast can be really strong. Blazvatan can be insane. You can even beat Mepedian Strike. Now, as I said, the Ifjan version of Mepedian Strike is a little scarier because they can deny your healing. And as you saw, I had like 5 counters on Renan and I used a lot of them. This is only going to do 20. And I had to use all of them. Or I had to use almost all of them. So that's tough for matchup. GG. Oh, he conceded. There you go. That's how you beat Strike. Alright, that's all I got for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is my first chaotic video, so if you have any suggestions, feel free to let me know, no matter how harsh they are. I just want to make my videos as good as I can. Also, comment down below if I missed anything about this Warbeast deck. And please let me know what type of deck you want to see me do a video on next. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching. Peace.